Okay, this next game that I want to show you is a game played by Capablanca with white and David Janowsky with black in St. Petersburg 1914. And the reason that I chose this game is because it's a game where we can see actually very beautiful the style of Capablanca, that he plays a very positional kind of chess, and somehow in this game things go so easily. It's like one part of his plan goes very easy in the next part of the plan, and then in the next part, and it's like there is a flow in the game. It's very nice. I'll show you. We have a Ruy Lopez opening, and Capablanca chooses the exchange variation. It takes on c6, d takes c6. The idea of this variation is that well, with white you give the bishop's pair, but black has a double pawn here on c7 and c6, so eventually an ending can be better for white, but that's a faraway plan. Bishop to c5, d3, then bishop g4, and now Capablanca plays bishop to e3. And this may look strange if you have never seen this idea before. White allows black to take on e3, and then white has a double pawn on e3 and e4, but this double pawn is not bad at all, because this pawn on e3 controls the squares f4 and d4, and especially the square d4 is important, because in the future white will want to play the move d3 d4. So that's why this double pawn is not bad for white. Queen e7, preparing castling queenside. White castles kingside, and black queenside. The queen goes to e1, moving away out of this pin, and then black plays knight to h6. Now the idea of the developing of this knight to h6 is to later play f6 and then the knight to f7, because if this knight would be developed to f6 like we normally see, in this case the square d5 is a square that the knight cannot go to, and there is also no d pawn of black that can be advanced to d5. So that's why Janowsky chose to play the knight to h6. And now we see the first part of the plan of white. We already completed the opening. All pieces are developed, and a fact is that black has castled queenside and white has castled kingside. So the plan of white will be to advance the b pawn and the a pawn to weaken the position of the black king. And we will see that he prepares this with the first move, rook b1, preparing b4. Black continues with f6 and now b4. The knight goes as planned to f7, and now white plays a4. And suddenly we see that this goes really fast, the advance of the queenside pawns of white. Black takes on f3, rook takes back, and then black plays b6. And now white is ready to advance his pawn from b4 to b5. And this advance is very important, not in the first place to start a king's attack to the black king, but actually because after b5 we see that this d5 square becomes very important, because if black takes now b5, then the white knight can jump to d5, and that's exactly what happens. Take, a take, a5. Well, black has a passed pawn, but we will see that black has not much time to make this pawn important, because now already white plays the knight to d5, and this knight is so strong because black cannot chase the knight away by playing c6, because then the b6 pawn will fall, and this pawn on b5 is also taking care of the square c6. So that means that this knight here is enormously strong. The queen is attacked, so he goes to c5, and black I'm sorry, white plays c4 because the c2 pawn was attacked. The knight goes to g5, rook is attacked, rook goes to f2, and the black knight goes to e6. Now the black knight has improved this position a bit, in the sense that now the knight on e6 is looking at g4, and that is an important square because white will want to advance the pawn from d3 to d4. That's the next part of the plan of white. We saw that first he plays b5, so the knight can go to d5, and now the second part of the plan is to play d4, and that's why Capablanca plays queen to c3, preparing d4. Black plays rook d7, and then the preparation continues with rook d1. And after king b7, we see that white plays this move d4. The queen is attacked, and the queen goes to d6. Now the next move of white is rook from f2 to c2, and that's actually a third part of white's plan. You see, what white is doing is using the pieces to support the advance of the pawns, just like the rook on d1 supported d4. Now the rook on c2 supports the threat c5. Here black took on d4, white takes back, and already we can see that it's impossible for black to prevent the move c5. So what Janowsky did with black here is he played the knight to f4, and the idea is on one hand to try to exchange this strong knight of white, but the other side of it is that after knight f4, c5 becomes so weak that white can play c5 immediately with a strong double threat, taking the queen on d6 and also playing c6 with a fork here and winning a rook. So it's now almost over. He took on d5, Capablanca took back, now queen takes d5, and then c6 was played with this fork. King to b8, and then take on d7, take on d7, and d5, rook e8, and now a beautiful move, d6, because it's beautiful because after c7 takes d6, the pawn on b6 becomes weak. This is what happened, and that's why then white can play queen to c6, and black cannot avoid to exchange queens now, because the b6 pawn would fall if the queen would go somewhere else. So after exchanging, then rook takes, and now the pawns of black are so weak that black has absolutely no compensation for the lost rook. Now let's have a quick look at the important moments in the game. We see this Ruy-Lopez exchange variation, in which white plays the bishop on e3, because after exchanging, this double pawn is not weak, and he uses this pawn on e3 to later play d4. Both castle on opposite sides, and the first part of white's plan is to advance this b pawn to b5, so he gains control over d5, where he places his knight so strongly, knight d5. And then the next part of the plan is to advance the d pawn, d4, and then again the next part is to advance the c pawn. Thus a terrible problem for black. He cannot defend against this double threat, and he loses material here, and this is how the game ended. So this is the example that I wanted to show you. It's so beautiful how Capablanca does this. It's really like the game is, from beginning to the end, is a whole. It's one thing. It's a complete. It's a beautiful, just one big plan. Very nice. Okay, that's the game. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you look at my next videos on YouTube. Thank you.